You're listening to episode number 1 of the Keto Diet Podcast. Hey, I'm Leanne from healthfulpursuit.com, and this is the Keto Diet Podcast, where we're busting through the restrictive mentality of a traditional ketogenic diet to uncover the life you crave. What's keto? Keto is a low-carb, high-fat diet where we're switching from a sugar-burning state to becoming fat-burning machines. The keto diet has helped me with fertility, has ended my constant weight struggles, blood sugar irregularities, imbalanced moods, and so much more. I want to share this magic with you using a realistic approach to this powerful diet. No restriction, new ways of looking at things, and positive support awaits. Let's get this party started. Hey guys, this is an exciting day. Very thrilled to be with you, chatting about all things keto forever and ever and ever. If you're wondering, wait, what? What happened to the No Sugar Coating podcast? Where am I? What's happening? Am I in an alternate universe? You are not. Amber and I recorded episode 46 together where we explained the division of things. So we're going to cut to that recording real quick so that you can hear from both of us if you are a previous No Sugar Coating podcast listener. And then we will get started with the show. Hey, Amber.
Hi, Leanne.
Oh, okay. You're way better at this stuff than I. So I'm going to give the mic to you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So listeners, thank you so much for coming on this journey with Leanne and I on the No Sugar Coating podcast. We have some exciting news. It's like a little bit sad maybe, but
dude, it's so sad. I'm about to cry.
It is sad. I know. I'm actually
this is so hard. Too. Okay. Yeah.
But we are actually going to be each kind of going solo, and I'm going to be continuing on with the No Sugar Coating podcast. And Leanne, do you care to share what you will be doing?
Yes, I'm going to go rogue. I'm going to be starting up the Keto Diet Podcast. So it's really going to be a lot of interviews with thought leaders in the space and speaking with a lot of veterans, people just like you and I who follow keto and their lessons and things like that, and delivering powerful actions for your ketogenic journey that goes far beyond food and diet. So as Amber said, it's really bittersweet and like super sad, but also super exciting. So Amber will be, her portion of the podcast, and she'll really be taking it over. She'll have the No Sugar Coating podcast and all the episodes will be with her. And then this feed that you're subscribed to right here will change to the Keto Diet Podcast. And so if you're like, what? Where did all the episodes go? Amber has them and she's going to totally crush it with episode 46 or 47, sorry.
You betcha.
And just keep going.
Yes. And for those that may just be starting to listen, moving forward with the No Sugar Coating podcast, what's going to be going on is things like if you're finding a specific eating style isn't working for you, you're dealing with emotional eating, food addiction, digestive issues, inflammation, hormone stuff, and self-care continues to be a problem with you. These are some of the many things that I'm going to be talking about on this podcast, plus more. So we'll be diving into a lot of different habits, mindsets, and really the goal is to set you up and get you on a different path. So I'm very excited to, share my knowledge and bring guests on. I'm even going to bring on some clients and get them to share their story and their experience and how I've been able to help them. So I'm very excited, and I'm very excited for you, Leanne, because I feel like you're going to be able to just dig into your niche even more and sprinkle the keto love. I just envisioning gold sparkles right now.
With my little keto queen cape, like sprinkling fairy dust.
A scepter and a crown.
Well, I think I'm very excited because within our podcast, together, these 46 episodes we've created together, I think a lot of keto people have listened and been like, oh, wow, self-care, that's really interesting. And what I wanted to do with the Keto Diet Podcast is continue those conversations, but by using the words, the keto diet, hopefully a lot of people that may not be interested in self-care, body love, those sorts of things will be like, oh, the keto diet, I do that. And then they listen, they're like, oh, what's this like meditation stuff about? And what's self-care about? And how does that fit into keto? So I'm excited for that. And I'm also really looking forward to listening to your podcast because I like hanging out with you every week, and everything that you say always like makes me feel better. And so I know that we've talked about this before of like, oftentimes if I'm having a really bad day, I download some of our like my favorite episodes of ours and I listen to them. I'm like, oh yeah, I did say that. Oh yeah, Amber did say that. And it's just such a good reminder. And so that won't go away. All the episodes are moving over with Amber. All of them will be hers, and she will have them there for you. So all you have to do is find the No Sugarcoating podcast, subscribe to her. You can listen to all the old episodes and it'll be good.
Heck yes.
Yeah. Anything else? Like I'm going to miss this together.
Me too. I'm going to miss our banter back and forth.
Yeah.
And talking about all of the things.
All of the things. Actually, the thing I'm going to miss the most is like before we record, we usually like catch up for 10, 15 minutes.
I know. Yeah.
I'll miss that.
Me too.
Like a lot.
Well, I guess it just gives us the excuse that we have to like put in the effort to get together more often since you literally live 2 minutes away.
I know. I drive past your house almost every day and I'm like, hey, Amber.
And then I look in your direction and I'm like, hey, Leanne, since I don't drive out that way much.
No,
there's nothing after your house.
There's like literally zero things after my house. Oh, is there anything else? I
think that's the biggest things. I think the last thing to do is share where people can find both of us moving forward.
Totally. And when we're going to be publishing, like when to listen for us.
Yes.
Okay. So if you are subscribed to the current No Sugarcoating podcast, like right now, as of September 25th through till October 1st, then you're in the right place for the keto diet. It'll just switch over to the Keto Diet podcast. So if you're subscribed right now, awesome. If you're not and you're listening to this on Amber's channel and you're like, who's this Leanne girl? She sounds pretty cool. You can just find me the Keto Diet Podcast, or you can go to ketodietpodcast.com and it will redirect you to my podcast. And I will be publishing for now. I'm going to keep on going with Sundays because I like Sundays. As Amber would say, happy Sunday fun day, which I'll probably use at least once. Yeah, so Sundays, same time, same place. And we will start off with a new episode October 2nd. So everything will kind of switch over on the 1st, 2nd-ish.
Cool.
What about you?
And for the No Sugarcoating podcast, I'm also keeping things the same because I don't want to confuse anybody. So new episodes will come out on Sundays. If you do want to send questions in, you can email nosugarcoatingpodcast@gmail.com. That is not changing. And also, if you want to check things out online, you'll be able to go to nosugarcoatingpodcast.com. Another cool thing that I am going to be doing is I'm going to be starting a private Facebook group for No Sugarcoating Podcast listeners.
Awesome.
So it'll be a great place for people to come share their stories if they want. It'll be a great place to ask questions, and there will be some extra cool little tidbits in there. So that is something that I will share for probably like every podcast. So I will be posting that link, and then you'll be able to join that, and that'll be a fun little place for people to hang out aside from listening to the podcast.
I love that idea.
Thanks.
I have a private Facebook group and I love all of them. Like, it's so great.
I'm excited to have it.
Totally. That's brilliant. I like that plan.
Thanks.
So there you have it.
Like,
right? Totally, they do. So there you have it. Basically, I mean, really, I was thinking about this earlier today. I was like, well, technically now we're doing 2 podcasts a week. Really, you're going to hear like double the awesomeness.
It's true. I agree.
I think
it's all like a positive because they get double dose.
Double dose of Leanne and Amber.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to again thank everybody for listening and all your support and everything. It's been so cool to do this podcast with you and see it evolve and And I'm so glad we got past those first 6 episodes
right?
and people wanted more.
Yeah, I was super nervous the first 6. I was like, how are we even going to do this? How do you even set up a podcast? And now look at us.
Yeah.
We're like, no big deal. We're going to have new podcasts set up. Boom, bow, bazowie. Let's
we have
do
like
this.
8 different kinds of podcasts. Bam.
Boom. Totally. Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. Really excited for both of our new journeys. You can find Amber, nosugarcoatingpodcast.com. Search for her all over the place. And that new Facebook group sounds awesome. And then just stay here for the Keto Diet Podcast. And there'll be a new episode on October 2nd for both of us.
Yay.
Yeah.
Take care, be well, love lots, live lots, laugh lots.
And take a lot of baths.
Yeah, take a lot of baths, eat a lot of carbs. I had to say that.
Amazing. Awesome. So every week starting now, I'm going to be sharing one awesome thing with you, whether this is a product or something that I ate, or maybe a practice that I started that I really loved, or a recipe that I made that I need to tell you about right this hot minute. Starting off this week with an application, a phone app, and also it's on your iPad and Android that I love, especially if you love yoga or meditation. This is definitely an app for you. It's called the Daily Yoga app, and it's an app that delivers yoga and meditation classes directly to your phone. I've been practicing yoga since I was little. I didn't know it was yoga whatsoever. We called it bending time. And I wasn't until I was an adult that I realized I had been practicing yoga for so long. So I love yoga. I love yoga. And what I love about the Daily Yoga app as a seasoned yogi is it allows me to practice my moves that I'm struggling with in class. So if you really want to like totally nail that crow pose, but the teacher doesn't give you enough time to really go through all the steps, the Daily Yoga app can be super helpful for that. Or if you're a beginner or you just like doing yoga, but you don't have time to go to class. And if you're like me, the lineups are crazy to get into the yoga classes these days. So Daily Yoga app allows you to practice at home. For beginners, it can be a great introduction to yoga in the comfort of your own home. Say you're kind of scared of going to your first class. You can practice a bunch of times before you head to class, or maybe decide you don't even need to go to class because it's right there on your phone or your iPad. To download it, you can head to dailyyoga.com/keto. And once it's downloaded, you set your details like your gender and your birth date, and that just allows them to display workout stats after you're done your session. And then go to the Me tab, it's on the bottom, and add the coupon code KETO, that's all lowercase, no spaces, KETO, for 7 days free. So you'll get access to all of the classes. And what I really liked is that you can either choose poses to work through, or you can choose programs. So they have like a fat burning class and an insomnia class and like a reduced stress and anxiety class. Really, really cool. And you can download the classes ahead of time. So say you're traveling and you don't want to use your data while you're out camping, let's say, you can download a bunch of the classes so that you don't have to worry about eating up your data once you're out and about. And in the classes, the directions are very, very clear, so it can help you develop really good form. I've been to a lot of yoga classes where it's a beginner class, but they're not going through the exact steps of where your shoulder should be and space and everything. And what I love about yoga and why I think it's so valuable for so many people is that oftentimes I get asked, Leanne, you often talk about like how to listen to your body, and you listen to your body and you know what your body needs, and how do you do that? Yoga has been such a huge, huge part of that for me, because if you know where your body is in space on your mat, generally you have a good feeling of what your body needs and where it is in space off of your mat. So it's a really great practice to get into. And if yoga ain't your jam, but you've always wanted to do meditation, the Daily Yoga app does that too. So I highly encourage you, head on over to dailyyoga.com/keto, enter in that keto coupon codes. You get 7 days of free classes. Check it out and let me know what you think. So what we are covering in this episode is an introduction to me. So if you're new to the podcast, or you've never heard of this Leanne Vogel lady, I'm going to share some details about who I am and what's up, and my personal keto diet experience and why my keto approach is a little bit different from the rest. And then a bunch of teasers of upcoming guests and topics that are coming to the Keto Diet Podcast. So the show notes for today's episode can be found at healthfulpursuit.com/podcast/E1. And let's hear from one of our awesome partners. Vital Proteins is a partner of the Keto Diet Podcast, and we all know how much I'm obsessed with them. Why? Because their beef gelatin and collagen peptides are so versatile, encourage healing, and are very easy to incorporate. If you have digestive imbalances, are wanting to grow strong hair or nails, or are looking for a health-promoting protein powder, look no further than Vital Proteins. Their beef gelatin is great added to soups, stews, and casseroles, and their collagen peptides can be used just like you would use protein powder. Now that the weather is changing, I like to add a couple of scoops of gelatin to my casseroles, stews, and my personal favorite, beef stroganoff. Receive 10% off plus free shipping in the US when you use the code VPHP10 at checkout at vitalproteins.com. Great. Okay, so if you guys have an idea for a podcast episode and or want to submit praise for the Keto Diet Podcast over and above submitting a review on any of your podcast apps, you can reach me by emailing info@ketodietpodcast.com. Okay, let's get to the main section of the show already. So my name is Leanne Vogel, and I'm a holistic nutritionist, and I'm also a high-fat enthusiast, and I help women regulate their hormones and balance their metabolisms by eating a lot of fat. And to give you a little rundown, I studied holistic nutrition in 2007. At the time, I was vegan. Yes, I was vegan. I continued to be vegan. I was about vegan for like 7 years, I think. It was quite a long time. And during that time, my husband, my now husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, had like pictures of me sleeping all over the house. I was always tired. I was always so tired. And so, dating a German who loves meat and potatoes, it was very quick for me to start eating meat after we started dating. And I began to feel a lot better. So at that point, I was eating meat and grains and pretty much everything. I was diagnosed, a naturopath said that I was sensitive to gluten. I've never actually been diagnosed with celiac disease. I tried to start eating gluten again for a month so that I could get tested, but it was just too much for me. It really affected me. I had ADD when I was an adult, and that got a lot better when I reduced the gluten, and I had a lot of cystic acne, which got a lot better when I removed dairy. So when I started eating meat, I really started paying attention to no gluten, no dairy, but everything else was pretty much like good. At the time, I was still struggling with an eating disorder. I had anorexia and bulimia off and on, like intertwined from a very young age. I was a dancer, so it kind of came with the territory for me. It was just something that I struggled with for a very long time. And then I found paleo. And so I started eating paleo a couple of years after beginning eating meat. I got really constipated and I had a really hard time with it. And I was eating like a lot of coconut and I was having reactions because I was eating all of the same foods all of the time. And in between all of this, I hadn't had a period for a very long time. That was a combination of not eating enough, being a low weight, not eating enough fat. It was a hot mess, working out way too much. I worked out sometimes 3 times a day. I would go to a 2-hour spin class, then I would swim, then I would go to work. And during lunch hour, I would go for a run. And then after work, I would go to CrossFit. I am not even kidding you. This is what I did for years. I did tons of half marathons. Never did did I do a full marathon? No, I didn't. A lot of 10Ks. I ran all the time. Like my quick run on Wednesday evenings was like a 14-kilometer run, which, oh my gosh, I would not do that now. So this behavior went on, eating disorder stuff, food restriction stuff, just yucky things, working out so much, not listening to my body. I was blogging, I was running my business, I was doing everything. I wasn't getting my period. It was a hot mess. So I went to a naturopath in May of 2014, and I was like, I need my period. It's been like 8 years. This is insane. Well, I think at the time it was 7 years, but still 7 years, no period. What the heck? I'd been off birth control for 7 years and never came back. Endocrinologist said I needed like pumps and hormone replacement therapy, which made me gain so much weight. Hormone replacement therapy was a nightmare and didn't fix my hormones at all. And so she recommended I check out a low-carb diet. And I was like, low-carb? That's crazy. I'm not going to eat Atkins bars for the rest of my life. You're nuts. And I was on Instagram that same day, that evening. I was laying in bed, which I shouldn't have had my phone with me because that's no good for sleeping patterns. But what was really, really cool is that one of my friends used the hashtag keto on one of her posts, and it was like a high fat thing. I was like, what is this hashtag keto thing? And this opened up a can of worms for me. So cool. And I read up on the keto diet. There wasn't a lot of information at the time, like barely anything. There was probably 2 people talking about it. And I decided the very next day, I'm going to try keto because my hormones are a wreck. My estrogen was non-existent. My DHEA also non-existent. All of the hormones, I had a lot of doctors say, it looks like somebody just flipped a switch off in your body. Like your hormones are non-existent. My thyroid was super low. My adrenals, my cortisol was tanked. So why not? Let's try the keto diet. Never heard of it or anything. So I tried it. And within the first 2 months, I lost all my hormone weight gain and I felt amazing. It was so great. But then something happened. 6 months into it, I had a really hard time sleeping and my thyroid was a hot mess. I was losing my hair like crazy and thinking that this diet was going to be the end of me, that it wasn't working. And I had been eating low carb, high fat for these 6 months. I was doing everything in quotation marks right, but my hair was falling out like crazy. I couldn't sleep. And I was starting to get really like agitated, like anxious and stuff. It just wasn't right. My ADD really fired up and, that had been quite calmed since going keto, like completely went away when I went keto. But then after those 6 months, I started finding that I was having a hard time just with anxiety and my attention was kind of all over the place. Looking back now, it was 2 reasons. Like clearly I wasn't eating enough carbs. I would have like no carb days and no food days and I would fast and it was crazy. And then also I wasn't eating enough. Like looking over my food diaries when I was calculating out my calories, oftentimes I'd be around the 1100 mark. And for the amount of working out I was doing, just like insanity. And so I decided that I was going to change the conversation within my body and really change my approach to keto. And so I stopped counting, I stopped tracking, I stopped doing all of the things that were making me absolutely crazy. I started a carb up practice where I ate carbs in the evening. And within 9 months of following this, I got my period back for the first time, and it has been rocking for 13 months, right on schedule. My cycle is like 32 days. I couldn't be more thrilled. It's awesome. So that gives you a little introduction to who I am and a little bit of my keto diet experience. And if you're new to the keto diet or you don't know what keto is, I added it to the intro of this podcast, at least for a little bit, so that everyone can get on board with what keto is. But basically, the standard ketogenic approach is that you're eating low carb, high fat. So generally that standard approach means about 20 grams of total carbs in a day. So you're probably going to be eating a lot of dairy and a little bit of meats and proteins, because that approach is also moderate protein, because the belief is that if more protein is eaten, that it will spike your blood sugar. So it's a ton of fat, like a ton of fat. And when I was doing that standard approach, I personally, while I lost weight, didn't feel too great on that standard approach, as I explained. The Keto Diet Podcast is sponsored by Daily Yoga, an app that delivers 50 high-definition online yoga classes so that you can namaste in the comfort of your own home, in a hotel room, or anywhere really. With the option of professionally scheduled programs to reach your goals, whether they be overcoming insomnia, changing body composition, or calming anxiety, the multilingual classes, as well as various meditation courses, distinguish daily yoga in the app space. After your workout, you're presented with stats of your workout, time worked, intensity, calorie burn, and so much more. Download the app by going to dailyyoga.com/keto, access through the show notes, or type it in manually to your browser, and use the coupon code KETO, all in lowercase, no spaces, to unlock all of the programs and courses at once for free for 7 days. Again, that's dailyyoga.com/keto, and use the coupon code KETO, all lowercase, no spaces, to unlock all of the programs. So my approach to keto, and really that transitionary period when I was losing all my hair and totally going crazy, was when I adjusted the keto diet to work for me. And I encourage everyone to adjust the keto diet to make it work for them. Always. So my adjustments might not be right for you. You might start off with a standard ketogenic diet and find that all you need is an increase of protein and you're good to go. That's awesome. But you might try the standard ketogenic diet and find that 20 grams of carbohydrates, that is just not your jam. So my approach is like 5-pronged, because I realize that everyone is different. I think the most important piece to keto in my experience was that keto adaptation phase. So when you are becoming keto adapted, becoming fat adapted, your body is switching metabolic processes so that fat burning becomes your number one preference to fueling. So right now in a carbohydrate state, you're burning carbs as fuel. When the carbs come in, you burn it. And when they get lower, your body's like, I need to eat. And usually that's every 2 to 4 hours. In a fat burning state, once you have keto adapted, once you're fat adapted, you are running off fat as fuel. You eat the fat, you burn the fat on your body loves fat is happening, and the carbohydrates kind of take a back seat. What that means is that when you're purely fat adapted, if you do have carbs, your body will eat through those carbs really quick and switch back to fat. Whereas in the carbohydrate burning mode, when your body eats those carbs, it wants more carbs because it thinks that that's the only fuel. And so that's the difference and the structure and process behind becoming fat adapted. So as you're becoming fat adapted, your body's a little bit confused. Like, where are the carbs at, lady? Like, what the heck? What's happening with all this fat? We don't want fat. We want carbs. So I find that fat adaptation phase, you're generally going to be craving sugar and carbs and anything to do with carbs and sugar. And then once your body realizes that there's all this fat coming in and it can use that, it starts switching that metabolic process and starting to build up the enzymatic processes it needs to burn fat as fuel. So many people can adapt at different grams of carbohydrates. I can fully adapt around 50 grams. And then once I'm adapted, I can go up to around 80, sometimes 100, depending on the food that I'm eating, carbs, and stay in ketosis. Okay. So that's like the most important piece is we want to maintain a state of ketosis, but we don't need a deep ketogenic space of like 3 millimoles per liter every day. Otherwise it's not working. Now, the difference between keto and ketoacidosis is that keto is a nutritional ketogenic space. We are not exceeding 3 millimoles per liter in ketones. And if we are, generally my clients that I see that are like, say, 5 millimoles per liter, it's because they are not eating enough, like not eating enough, period. And in a ketoacidosis state, what's happening is that our blood sugar is rising as well as our ketones. And usually the ketones are, say, around 23 millimoles per liter. And this state of ketoacidosis is only able to occur when a person's pancreas doesn't work correctly. So this is a state that diabetics have to worry about, but the ketosis that we are talking about here is not the ketosis that diabetics are warned about. That's ketoacidosis. We're talking about ketosis, ketogenic diet, nutritional ketosis. Those are the words that we're running for, not the ketoacidosis. So I hope that explains things a little bit better in regards to keto, in addition to my approach. So once you've gone through that fat adaptation phase, that can be anywhere between 2 weeks and a month, depending on your body. Once you're fat adapted, you can really play because your body knows that fat is the preferred fuel. You can really play around with your carbohydrates. It'll burn through the carbs and then go back to fat burning. And where this is really, really, really helpful is people like me who have really imbalanced hormones, and they're very, like, I know that my weakest link is my hormones, and specifically my thyroid and adrenals. So if I'm going through a stressful period or really anything, like, my body needs carbs. My body needs carbs, but it doesn't need the amount of carbs that I was eating previously. So what I do is I have my carbohydrates in the evening, and we're actually going to be chatting about carb ups and the carbohydrates in the evenings in a future podcast, but I'll go through it really quickly. I have my carbohydrates in the evening, which helps offset a lot of the feelings that I get and symptoms that I experience when I don't have those carbs. So like the hair loss and the adrenal dysfunction and everything that comes along when I don't eat enough carbohydrates. You may find that this carb up practice is really helpful if you're doing anaerobic activities. Anaerobic activities require carbs. That is the only way that your body can fuel when you're doing anaerobic activity. And an anaerobic activity are the short burst exercises. So like CrossFit is one. If you're doing CrossFit, you're going to need those carbs. If you're doing any sort of sprints or intervals or anything, you're going to need that. Whereas aerobics, say you're a runner or a cyclist, you can burn primarily off fat and be totally fine for those long distance things. But if you're doing sprint stuff, the literature points to the fact that you need carbs in order to do that. So the carb up practice is a really great way to have your carbs, fuel with fat, and then when you sleep, your body like eats through all the carbs, and then in the morning you're back to fat burning. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can go through this more fat-fueled approach as opposed to the standard ketogenic diet. I outline this really, really clearly in my program Fat Fueled, which you can find at healthfulpursuit.com/fat fueled. I'll include a link in the show notes, which you can find either in your podcast app or head on over to healthfulpursuit.com/podcast/E1. And that gives you a little bit of a rundown of keto and my approach. And my keto now is so much different than it was 2 years ago. It's crazy. I mean, this time 2 years ago, I was starting to lose my hair and I couldn't sleep. So it's been a really, really exciting journey. Right now, I do usually like a fatty drink twice a week in the morning. I don't like to fast. I find that it really sets me up for a different sort of day. I really enjoy fasting when I'm traveling or when I need to use it as a tool, but otherwise I really enjoy having breakfast and having like solid food in the morning. And so my breakfast usually consists of what you would eat for dinner. It's usually leftovers. Like yesterday for breakfast, I had ribs with a bunch of oils on it and a fatty salad and some avocado. So it changes frequently, but it's really like my version of keto is very much paleo. It's just less maple syrup, less sweet potatoes, and a lot more fat. And fat bombs, because fat bombs. The podcast is sponsored by Paleo Valley 100% grass-fed beef sticks, my new favorite gut-friendly clean protein snack. There are tons of new snack options on the market today, but nothing quite like Paleo Valley's grass-fed beef sticks. They are made from 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef, which is really rare. Contains all organic spices, are all free of dyes, and are also carb-free, GMO-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, and contain 0 grams of sugar. But the big reason these beef sticks make me do the happy dance is that they're fermented. Yes, just like fermented vegetables. As a result, each beef stick contains 1 billion naturally occurring gut-healing probiotics. They're super convenient, delicious, and great for your gut, so don't miss out. Exclusive to our listeners, Paleo Valley is providing 20% off all orders for a very limited time. You'll also be given first dibs on their brand new, insanely delicious garlic summer sausage and summer sausage flavors, just like healthy mini hickory smoked sausages. Get your fermented 100% grass-fed beef sticks for 20% off by going to paleovalley.com/keto. Load up your cart and the discount will be automatically applied. Again, that's paleovalley.com/keto. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be delving into the structure of a ketogenic diet. I'm going to be recording a couple of solo pieces like this where it's just me, my microphone, a big jug of water, which I haven't drank from because it's really hard to drink when you're constantly recording and you don't have time. You don't have a break. So we're going to be doing a couple of solo podcast where I'm going to be going through some of your questions, or like I said, if you have an idea for a podcast episode and you send me an email at info@ketodietpodcast.com and I feel like I'm the best person to answer that question or talk about that topic, I will. Otherwise, I'm going to find leaders in the ketogenic space and also leaders outside of the ketogenic space to share their wisdom with you. We have a couple of guests booked that are Healthful Pursuit listeners and readers and watchers, and they are also healthcare practitioners, and they're practicing keto and they're incorporating keto into their medical practices. And we have an acupuncturist, a massage therapist. So this is all very exciting things, a naturopath, and how they are incorporating keto into their practice and really to inspire you guys. I know so many of the Healthful Pursuit members of our community are always saying like, my doctor doesn't think that what I'm doing is smart, or my doctor isn't good, or my doctor is, and how do I find a doctor that's like your doctor? So I really want to showcase that there are people out there that support the ketogenic diet, that are there to help us totally rock our life, and also people outside of the ketogenic space. For example, Gretchen Rubin from the Happiness Project is coming on the podcast in a couple of weeks. And we're going to be chatting all about happiness and how to create more awesomeness in your life. Christy Harrison is going to be chatting about health at every size. Uzi Rees, the author of The Natural Superwoman, is going to be on the podcast. I'm chatting with Danielle Laporte, author of Desire Map and the Firestarter Sessions. So there's a lot more to this podcast than the keto diet and specifically talking about what we're eating and what we're doing. I really want to encompass the keto life and how that affects the keto diet in a positive way. In addition, some topics that we're going to be covering up through the end of the year are going to be carbing up. So we're going to talk about carb ups, why I don't recommend dairy on keto, why calorie counting doesn't work, your gut on keto, toxic fats and how to avoid that, breastfeeding and weight loss on keto, protein on keto. So there's lots of keto stuff interwoven with a lot of things that are going to help with balancing your life. So you will find a new Keto Diet podcast in your feed every Sunday in the morning when you wake up. It'll be there for you, and it will be complete with like 30 to 60 minutes of content chatting about all the things that you need. And if you have purchased any of my keto products, then you are probably part of my private Facebook group. and we're going to be chatting more about keto in there. It's a really great forum for voicing your concerns or questions or total wins or recipes or anything. And it's a private group. Nobody can even find it if they search for it. So I know a lot of people initially were super worried, like, if I post stuff, are my friends going to see it? So we just shut her down, and it's an exclusive invite. So you can only get invited if I have your email and it's been coordinated. So if you're part of that Facebook group, we will chat over there every week and continue with that awesomeness. And if you're not, you can find any of my products at healthfulpursuit.com/shop. Any of the keto products come with an invitation to that private Facebook group. So I think that's all for today's episode. I hope I covered everything. It's always so hard when you're talking about yourself and trying to cover all the bases and make sure that people understand where you're coming from and what your experiences are. I'm so excited to start this conversation on keto. This aligns so well with my vision of what I wanted to do when I first started the keto diet. And it's been such an amazing journey. And I hope that by listening to the Keto Diet Podcast, you can take little tidbits of information, leave the rest. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's totally okay. I'm hoping that there's a bunch that resonates with you that can change the way that you view your life and the way that you practice keto, so that you can make a keto diet that fits well for you and that feels good. And I've had so much success eating this way. My life has completely changed. My relationships have changed. I no longer have ADD. I have a solid understanding of who I am, and I'm a more confident woman because of it. And I'm really excited to continue this conversation and share what I've learned, and also share the people that have inspired me. And yeah, so very exciting stuff happening right now. I will see you guys next Sunday. And again, if you have an idea for a podcast episode, or you want to submit praise over and above the review you're going to leave on your podcast app, you can reach me at info@ketodietpodcast.com. And that does it for another episode of the Keto Diet Podcast. Thanks for listening in. You can follow me on Instagram by searching Healthful Pursuit, where you'll find daily keto eats and other fun things. And check out all of my keto supportive programs, bundles, guides, and other cool things over at healthfulpursuit.com/shop. And I'll see you next Sunday. Bye.